The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member for Wills.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. In 1987, 25-year-old Vicky Cleary was attacked and murdered by her ex-boyfriend in Coburg. Vicky's killer used the defence of provocation, receiving a meagre jail sentence of 3 years and 11 months. This was a death sentence for Vicky, a life sentence for her family who will forever mourn her loss and have been, and less than 4 years for her killer. After Vicky's death, her brother, Phil Cleary, a champion footballer for the Coburg Football Club and coach, and also a former member for Wills in this place, campaigned for the provocation law to be removed. He was instrumental in its abolition in 2005. And since 2017, Phil has held an annual footy match at Coburg Football Club named the Vicky Cleary Day, where we gather to honour the women lost to men's violence. I recently attended this year's day with Ministers Claire O'Neill, Ministers Vicky Ward and Tim Richardson from the state government. At Vicky Cleary Day, we think of the life of Vicky, of course, what it would have been and what it should have been if she'd lived, but also all of the women who have been lost. Jill Maher, Aya Masawi, Eurydice Dixon, just to name a few in Melbourne's north, all of whom had their lives tragically cut short by violence. And of course we think of the 59 women this year who have been lost to violence in Australia. 59 just this year already. It's simply put, it's a national shame. The advocacy of people like Phil Cleary means we remember women who have been lost while actively trying to work for a better future as well. And of course, as a member, the current member for Wills, I'm very committed to implementing the government's strategy for ending violence against women and children in a generation. That's the best way we can honour the women who have been lost as well. Of course, we know that in response to advocates and the work that they've done, the Prime Minister, the Premiers, the Chief Ministers and National Cabinet agreed on a comprehensive $4.7 billion package that harnesses important opportunities to work together to prevent violence and support legal services. And that package will deliver support for frontline specialists and legal services, responding to gender-based violence, innovative approaches to better identify and respond to high-risk perpetrators to stop violence escalating and address the role that systems and harmful industries play in exacerbating violence. Deputy Speaker, I also know the importance of legal services to women just in my own community, especially women of ethnic background and colour, from non-English speaking background and other migrant backgrounds. There are 160 community legal centres, or CLCs, in Australia. They provide free and localised services to more than 400,000 Australians annually, and are often the first point of call for women escaping gender-based violence and family violence and domestic violence. And I personally know a woman in my electorate, we've met far too many, who she sought help for domestic and family violence. She didn't seek it until her 6-year-old daughter went to school with a bruise on her cheek, and she was referred to a community legal centre and supported in separating from and pursuing an IVO from her ex-husband. I don't want to think about what would have happened if the CLC involved was not there to assist her. And I'm heartened at the efforts that this government has made to fund the new National Access to Justice Partnership, which will see a critical $800 million increase in funding for the legal assistance sector over 5 years, with a focus on uplifting services, responding to gender-based violence. And under this agreement, the Commonwealth will invest $3.9 billion over 5 years as well, providing ongoing funding beyond the 5-year agreement so that the sector has long-term funding certainty. But frankly, Deputy Speaker, women are tired of having to seek justice. Justice is important, but by its very nature, justice happens after the fact, after the pain, after the crime. By the time you need a woman's sanctuary to step in and provide safe haven to a family, by the time a CLC is involved, by the time a bruise is noticed by a teacher or on one of the students' faces, a woman and her children are already hurt, or worse, dead. So women want to live. I think we all want to live in a world where they never need to have services after the fact, after the violence, a world where the violence never happens to begin with. And I think where Phil Cleary's advocacy and work for his sister is so important, because he's putting together programs around teaching young boys and men how to respect women and how to engage respectfully, entering male-dominated spaces like a sporting club to speak about preventing violence is an extremely important element of preventing violence at its source. And that advocacy continues. Phil tirelessly attends local schools, businesses, sporting clubs to advocate for anti-violence strategies. So I say to Phil, thank you for all your efforts. Obviously, these conversations aren't easy. A lot of victims and family members of victims are part of those conversations at the local school level at the sporting clubs. But I'm glad they're happening. I'm glad Phil is initiating them and in my local community of Wills, and I want to support him further.
The question is that the motion be agreed to, and I call the member